Well, hi and welcome everyone. I'm Kristine Fisher, your host of this edition of Cape Ann ARTWaves, where every week we have the good fortune to interview gifted artists and makers. This program is coming to you by way of 1623 Studios, located in Gloucester, Massachusetts. Today, I'm so pleased to introduce artist philosopher Nella Lush, who paints from a place deep, deep within. Her paintings are rich with texture, color, and radiate emotion. Her work is in multiple collections, private and corporate, scattered all across the globe. I like to say that Nella truly gives of herself to the greater arts community. From her teaching and mentoring to serving as an active arts leader, having started the Massachusetts chapter of the National Association of Women Artists, and having served as president for 2 terms. She also founded and leads the Experimental Group, which falls under the umbrella of the Rockport Art Association and Museum here in Rockport. She's also on the board. She has 2 studios, one in North Andover, Massachusetts, and one in SOWA, which is a district of Boston off of Harrison Ave, kind of an artist enclave, and is represented by multiple galleries in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Long Island, California, and the UK. And if that's not enough, she speaks 5 languages and is married to a wonderful painter, Steve Lush. And together they have contributed so much to the Boston arts landscape. I'm excited to welcome you, Nella.
Kristine, you make me sound so good. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, as I like to say, you deserve every wording you do. And I do want to start by saying that I've had the pleasure of interviewing some of your fellow artist students, and they just can't say enough about you. I feel like all roads lead to Nella Lush. You have a legacy that precedes you. So I think that's wonderful, just in and of itself.
I'm humbled by it.
I want to say, too, to you, congratulations on your newly released podcast with your colleague, Cecilia Hampkin. I listened to it this morning. I thought it was just fantastic.
We had so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows you when 2 artists come together and you're conversing about art, this energy that we create is beyond words. It was so natural, so spontaneous, and so enriching for us that you had to put all fears aside because, the first thing is people are going to understand what I'm saying or what we're trying to do. And that portion was a little intimidating at the beginning. But, I really don't care. As long as it reaches people and the right person that can get some advice from it and get life more enriched by it.
Well, I certainly did. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to start to scribble more often. I thought it was a wonderful breakthrough exercise, honestly, to just release my energy, before I get going on a particular piece. So
Celia would be happy to hear that too.
Yeah, you can take that back. You also made a comment during your podcast. Life makes you an artist. I love that comment. And it ties into a comment that you made to me as we were preparing for this recording, for this interview. You said the moment you were born, you were an artist. Both of those comments, I think, are really rich, and they serve as a great jumping off point. If you would, Nella, tell us how you got started, how you discovered your passion.
So it's interesting because last night I had an interview with Parker Kelly, the host of the Home Life and Style TV show. So she asked me the same question too, and she says, "Did you always wanted to be an artist?" And I said, I never really thought about being an artist. Because you do art without thinking. From the moment you were born, you're learning. You are really influenced by your environment, by the energy of who's around you and how they're interacting with you. And you learn how to create. You're creating with your hands, with your eyes. So you're putting the whole being into that. You learn how to use your hands, touch your eyes, so that tactile sense And then as you get older, you just you see, you know, your hands are going into the food, and you're creating things with the food, and you're making colors, you're making mush, and then you see from, you know, I remember my younger children when they were young, they would have a graham cracker and they would bite on it and say, look what I just made with a graham cracker. And they will make shapes. And so art is, I mean, life is what really teaches us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even teaching as much as guides us
Mm.
towards that, oh boy, I would say that light, that ultimate thing that is creation. And
Yes,
creation for me is light.
yes, yes. Well, I grew up making mud pies too, and that is kind of my first memory of really discovering, creating art, if you will.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I mean, we know what Picasso said. You know, every child is an artist,
yes.
and and it is really our responsibility. And I take that deeply seriously. It
Mhm.
is our responsibility to instill and to expose children to art making. And when I say art making, it's not necessarily just painting. It's any sort of creating,
Mhm.
music, performing, singing, dancing, anything that puts all your senses and make it one,
Mhm.
and it becomes part of your being.
I love it. I love it. So I'd love to just stay on this briefly for another minute. I'd love to learn for our listeners more about your background. You were brought up in Italy. You were brought up in a tiny medieval town, from what I understand, or village, and you had very influential grandparents who were artists. Can you talk a little bit about some of those early memories for you personally?
Definitely. So the medieval town was my mother's side of the family
Mhm.
was in Calabria,
Mm.
and my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, lived in this little medieval town called Pietrapaola, and I have the fondest memories of my childhood, going there every summer and spending 2 months in the countryside, and helping my grandfather milk the goats, and riding the horse with my grandmother, going to the countryside to pick up apples and pears,
Mm.
and stopping by the riverbank. And my sister and I will be using clay to build little homes and people. And it was enriching. My grandmother was, she did everything from just a total master of everything, but she was mostly a textile
Mm.
artist that taught me how to use fabrics, how to dye fabric, how to knit, how to crochet, how to embroider, and without any patterns. And it's almost like the same way as I paint, no preconceived idea. And she will create this most beautiful lace, weaved blankets that I still have. You know, they're over 100 years old.
Mm.
Um, so that was an enriching experience every summer.
Oh.
Then during the year, during the winter, my other grandmother, a botanical artist, she was also an incredible master of everything.
Mhm.
And she had 13 children, my father being the oldest.
Wow.
And she maintained these most beautiful gardens. And she would make her syrup for any sickness that we had. You know, she will use almonds, figs, and all sort of things. But on top of that, she will know every plant, and she will do meticulous renderings of the plants and the flowers. And so that is, again, leading by example.
Yes.
They do it because they wanted me to become a certain way? Definitely not. That was the lifestyle. It
Hmm.
was an awesome lifestyle. I didn't have toys.
You're.
I only had one doll and one tricycle. And
Mm.
then when I was older, I had the bicycle.
Mm.
But that was it that I could remember.
Oh, what a rich, rich upbringing. I think this is a good segue, Nella. I'd love to talk, because it ties into your Italian roots. I'd love to talk about your inspirations. And before we start that conversation, I want to read a quote from Cape Cod Life that I really resonated with me. And in your words, I write feelings in poetry and then cover them up with layers and layers of paint. I need to paint what I feel.
Yeah, yes. To
It's,
me, nature inspires me. So
mhm,
I would probably say nature is life,
mhm,
and life is nature, and art is our life.
mhm,
So to pinpoint really what inspires me, it's very difficult because everything is nature. So
mhm,
everything will inspire me.
mhm,
But if I'm walking, if I'm outside and it's just the formation of trees or plants or birds or butterflies or anything,
mhm,
anything in nature, you just look at the perfection of it. It
mhm,
just brings forth this an incredible emotion. And I have to say, when I walk, I start crying because I'm moved so much by
mhm,
the wind, by the way the leaves are moving in the trees and the colors and the way the light is filtering through those leaves and in the change of season. And it just everything moves me. So in my mind, I'm painting outside.
mhm.
So now those are the emotions that I bring in the studio.
Yes. Mhm,
And this is another reason, if it's raining, if it's windy, I have no music on because I need to paint with those elements that they're part of nature.
that move you, that
Yeah.
move you
Yeah.
as you create on your canvas. Well, what I'd like to show right now are your beautiful paintings entitled Voyage,
Yes.
that do tie back to, I believe, your last trip to Italy. Is that
Yes.
right? So if you could kindly talk to that for us, I think they're just stunning, Nella.
Thank you. It's again the because when something it moves you, you also imprint it in your mind this imagery.
Mhm,
And it's not necessarily the perfect rendering of something, but it's just the essence of what you're seeing and what you're feeling.
mhm,
It's a very difficult thing, so you have to let it happen organically in a very natural way.
mhm,
So when I came back home here, those feelings were still part of me. The
mhm,
light that you find coming from the south and traveling north by car on the autostrada and really savoring the landscape.
mhm.
And one thing about the Italian people, they cultivate every inch of the land.
Oh boy, they do. I know that.
There is nothing that is left undone. When my mother came here, she says, Nella, you guys have so much grass. So why so much grass? You could be planting things. And I would say, Ma, that's the way it is here. We need to have grass. But so she couldn't understand. She couldn't grasp that. So the landscape, the Italian landscape, ever changing from south to center to north, it's beautiful. And it's something that I always carry with me, those textures, those colors, burnt yellows and oranges and green and the
Mhm.
blue of the ocean and the emerald green of the water, just the rocks. And it's with me.
Well, I love the dialogue between all these paintings that make up this series. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for sharing this work with us. I'd like to ask you before we jump in and talk a little bit about your process. Talk to us about your feelings around describing your work to others. When we talked earlier, you mentioned that you really don't like to describe your work, and I thought your answer and your position on this was very thoughtful and insightful in terms of who you are. So let's chat about that.
So what I always say is it's my process. My painting is that voyage that I have. It's a journey with, it's a relationship, a interaction with the paint, and it just things happen in such a magic, mysterious way. So that is my journey. You as the viewer, you would have your own journey. You might not see the same as I see.
Mhm,
So I don't want to influence you in any way,
mhm,
because when you look at a painting, make it so that it's your story and
mhm,
you go deep into it.
mhm, mhm,
Oftentimes, people will tell me, especially this is the reason why I have the studio in Boston, so that I can relate that way with viewers.
mhm,
And oftentimes, they will tell me what they see. But then they will ask me, but tell me a little bit more. Can you tell me? Can you share with me? Then I will share with them.
Mhm.
And oftentimes we're right on the same plane
Mhm.
because, again, I think when you paint with emotions, you're reaching others through emotions.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yes, I agree. I think it's such a personal opportunity to engage with a piece, and you don't want to be prescriptive about that. You know.
and you say the right word, the right term. It's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So as an artist, it's my opportunity to communicate with others. And I would like to communicate without words
Mm-hmm.
and create this magical world where someone will get peace through it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I believe that art is such an important necessity in people's life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will do without a lot, um, but our home always had art. Not
Mm-hmm.
only ours, but also other artists' art, other because it really enriches our environment and it makes it. You don't even notice the furniture. You just get this feeling, the energy that the art is filling the room with.
Right, exactly. And I think it really helps to trigger our imaginations, right? I mean, it really
Yes.
helps us to wonder. I think it's so important to wonder. So let's move on and talk about, we could stay on this forever. I love talking to you, Nella.
Oh, thank you,
Such
Kristine.
a rich conversationalist. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your process because you have a beautiful studio. We're seeing a little bit of it in your background here.
Oh, thank you.
And I'd love for you to kind of walk us through your process. I know you work on multiple pieces and these individual works of art inform each other. Just
Yeah.
talk to us more about some of your maybe favorite steps or
If you
techniques.
allow me, you just say something, just talking about something. Parker last night asked me how many languages spoke. And so she said, I understand you speak 5. She says, you actually speak 6. And I said, really? She says, with art being your first language.
Ah,
And I said, what an incredible, it's true. So art, we can speak about something that we love and it becomes a natural, it's a natural language for us.
mhm,
So speaking art, we can go on and on. So that's my process. My process is writing down on
mhm,
my canvas thoughts, words, sometimes just simple scribbles,
mhm,
letters, and then just get that energy out from my being into the canvas.
mhm,
And then I will cover it. And I will not even remember what I wrote.
mhm,
But once in a while, I'll see some little words here and there because it's in that moment when you have so much energy that you're placing on the canvas, you're
mhm,
really not thinking, oh, I'm going to record this and so that I remember. You just keep on going. And I
mhm,
wish I could have taken pictures, but it's very difficult to do so. So
mhm,
that's part of my process. I do layers and layers. I
mhm,
scrape a lot
mhm,
and I even keep the paint, I let it dry, and then I will reapply it again into the painting. I use oil pigments with cold wax, pumice,
mhm,
marble dust to create more texture.
mhm,
And through the scraping, it reveals some of the layers beneath.
mhm,
And so that's a process that it's almost like peeling off layers of your being. Each
mhm,
time you discover something new, and so it's a very automatic, natural process.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I never do a painting where it's just one layer.
mhm.
It's not
But if
me.
you're following your energy right on that canvas, you're just
What
giving
it is.
yourself permission to lean in and follow that light
Yeah.
or letting go.
Exactly. So remember, we said art is energy, energy is light,
Mhm,
and we are following that. So
mhm,
if all forms of art are important. So
Mm,
I'm not saying that because I paint a certain way. I mean, my seascapes are the same way too, just
mhm,
because they look a little bit more representational, but
mhm,
I have the same energy.
mhm,
I will do the layering, and it might not be the same textures,
mhm,
but I still do the same thing. So it's always following that and use that energy that you feel.
mhm, mhm. I would love to have a conversation with you, being the philosopher, poet, sage that you are. For those artists that are having difficulty getting back into their studios and creating art on their canvas during this time of COVID, where there's so much noise, there's just a lot of noise in the world right now. What would be your advice?
And this is such an important topic because life is such that even if we didn't have the pandemic, things do happen in our life, and how do we deal with it? You have to identify the type of person that you are. And
Mhm,
you have to identify if you have some weakness that you really like to work, if you're a procrastinator, or if you are really, everything depresses you. There are some important steps that you can go through to
mhm,
allow the energy to come out. To me, I will never stop. I'm thinking all the time. So that's my personality. Sometimes I would like to quiet down my mind.
mhm,
So what I tell artists is that take the opportunity. Every day is an opportunity. The
mhm,
pandemic was also an opportunity. It was the silver lining was that it allowed me for some downtime from my busy schedule
mhm,
and really just go through the different steps in order to really analyze my life and say, the most important thing is our life, our family, our children, our friends.
mhm,
Life in general is so fragile. Everything can be taken away from us in an instant.
mhm,
So why waste time feeling so down, so
mhm,
depressed? And if you have that outlet that and you can create, just throw yourself into that. Do
mhm,
anything,
mhm,
even if it just scribbles,
mhm,
do that because there will be a next step that
mhm,
will follow and it will bring you to another
mhm,
place that you don't even know.
mhm,
So life, anything that happens in life, look at it as an opportunity to do more and to fulfill your dreams. And
mhm,
don't be afraid of dreams because every day is a dream and every day is a present for us. It's our gift. So our gift from the universe that we need to really fulfill what we are here for, our mission and maybe identify what each one of us is a mission. Maybe my mission is to interact with people such as you and others and together we are reaching out to other people and
mhm,
what we are saying is going to influence their life and maybe they will start scribbling and painting or do whatever. So
mhm.
that is our mission, perhaps.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Let's talk a little bit about your arts leadership and visibility in the marketplace. Nella, you and Steve are very successful painters, and you have made it a point of very slowly over time building your business. First, you started to sell your work, I believe, in Europe,
Yes.
and you just started over time, and you have continued to build momentum. And I would love to better understand some of your tips, particularly as it relates to visibility, which does tie into your arts leadership because you are visible in the greater Boston community. But let's talk a bit about how that has contributed and informed, honestly, your success. And then also any advice that you might have with respect to keeping up our websites, keeping them fresh, blog activity, and maybe some success stories that have resulted as a result of that.
So very important for what I said was identify the type of personality that you are. There's
Mhm,
some people that will paint because it's just a hobby. That's fine because
mhm,
it's fulfilling the other that need that you have. But if you feel that you want to be a professional painter,
Mhm.
there are so many opportunities for us
Mhm.
because we are very blessed to have technology at our disposal.
Mhm.
So you can say, well, I don't know how to do this, how to do that. Well, the answer then, go and Google it. There's
Mhm.
a lot of videos that will show you
Mhm.
how to do Zoom or how to prepare your website or how to do social media,
Mhm.
Instagram and Facebook. So we cannot use that as an excuse.
Mhm.
All you need is a little bit of time and effort and do it. Websites are extremely important, but it's even more so is have an updated website.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
change the homepage often so that when viewers go, they have a fresh look and a different work. Stay in touch with your viewers because through the website they will sign on to have news from you. So I create newsletters,
Mhm.
and I'm not so good with the newsletters. I said I was going to do it every every month. Then it went every 3 months. Sometimes it's a little longer because of my life right now. Um, but it's the newsletters is another outlet for us that we're letting our viewers know what our life is all about. So
Mhm.
they're not only buying a painting,
Mhm.
they're buying you. They're
Yes.
buying you as a persona. They're buying your energy.
Yeah.
That's what they're bringing into their home. So you want to let them know what's happening to you. And I've had cases of people reaching out to me because they read a blog. They end up buying a couple of paintings, and now I have that connection with them because I know my buyers. They understood what my soul is, and
Mhm.
they wanted to have me in their home. And
Mhm.
how fulfilling is that?
Mm.
I had some of my paintings that I thought they were going to stay with me, never let them go. But I knew once I saw how the painting moved the person, I was able to let it go. So to let them fly.
Mm.
And that's the other thing. Artists need, if you're painting, when you're creating, you say, oh, I don't want to sell that. You'll see that at some point when you sell a painting, the pleasure that it brings you,
Mm.
because you know you're being validated, but
Yeah.
you also, again, bringing that pleasure in the collector's home.
Mhm. Oh, I love it. You've given us so much rich advice during this conversation. I want to thank you, Nella. It's been a real pleasure, a real treat to talk to you. And I want to share with our listeners that we can all learn more from Nella on her website, nellalush.com. And I have to say to you, too, Nella, that you've got some wonderful podcasts, some wonderful educational opportunities on your website
Thank
for,
you so
for
much.
further learning. Before we sign off, I'd love for you to just refresh in our memory. You had this fabulous interview. It's going to be on Channel 5, which is a major news station here in Boston. Share with us the name of the show.
It's at Home, Life, and Style. So the host is Parker Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I met her for the first time yesterday when she came to interview me. And we had a fabulous time. And it was, again, that exchange of energy between the two of us,
Mm-hmm.
talking about art. And she's also an artist herself. And she does everything, writing, a journalist, and now she's the creator of um, this new how do you call it
Series.
yes.
Series.
So I'm really excited when she will air the segment about me and my art, um, and I will let you guys know. I will put a link on my
Good.
website.
Yes, good, good. And maybe it might be aired next weekend. Did I hear that
uh,
correctly?
I'm not sure, but it's probably going to be in the fall.
Okay.
So fall is what, next week, right?
Keep us informed on your website. We'll look
I
for it.
will. I
We'll
will
look for
for
it.
sure.
Nella, I want to thank you. What a treat. Thank you so much. And I also want to share with our listeners, you can certainly access this recording on 1623 studio social media platform, whether it be Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, or Channel 12. Again, we've been talking to Nella Lush. I'm Kristine Fisher. I want to thank you all for listening. Take care and be well.